Hey, it's Eleanor, and you are listening to Power Presence Position, episode number 461. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing 3 superbly useful calculations that I perform on myself. Some are daily, one is daily, and the other 2 are quarterly, to really help me maximize my effectiveness as a human being and maximize the enjoyment that I get out of life. So don't go anywhere. This is going to be a good one. So here's the question. In a world where the rules of business have been written by men, how do women entrepreneurs like us, women who want to make millions of dollars and impact millions of lives, how do we create enormous success on our terms? That's the question, and this show explores the answers. Welcome to Power Presence Position. I'm your host, Eleanor Beaton, and I'm on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who generate over $1 million per year in annual revenue. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and leadership coach. I'm a wife, mom of 2 boys, and I'm the CEO of a 7-figure business. Stick around because on this show, you'll learn how to think, communicate, and get paid like a 7-figure CEO. Let's go. Hello, Queen. Eleanor here. Welcome back to the show. I missed you. I know that we've been releasing episodes every Tuesday, but I've actually been off on vacation. It's interesting. After almost a year, like during COVID time, I took a good solid 2 weeks off at Christmas. But honestly, other than that, I really didn't vacation much. We're so used to leaving, traveling to go for vacation. And not only that, there was so much change and uncertainty. Even though we were all good, I just didn't feel like I could leave the business for that long. I totally could have, but I didn't feel like I could. And so I decided I was going to take 4 weeks off this summer, which I am doing, and I very much need them. So I just completed a week off. And it was a really lovely and powerful reset. So we bought a new home, and I really hadn't had any time to just be at home. And so that's what I did. And it was fantastic. And one of the things that I was thinking about during my time off is how I measure the effectiveness of what I'm doing. I like to challenge myself. I like to have lots of time to relax. But I also am very clear and have developed a lot of clarity around what metrics move the needle for me. And so I thought that I'd take you through 3 of those metrics, or really there are 3 sort of calculations that I watch quite closely to make sure that I'm maximizing my effectiveness as a leader, as an entrepreneur, and that I am creating the kind of life that's important to me. And this is important because wherever your attention flows, that thing grows. And so for me, understanding what calculations, what metrics, what information am I going to pay attention to in order to be able to generate growth in different areas of my life, I want to know what those calculations are. So I've got 3, okay? And I'm going to go through. One is my time use. The other is my net worth. And the third is the number of steps I take in a day. So I'm going to go through each of those, and hopefully you'll find something in here that's really useful. All right, calculation number 1 is my time use. And when I pay attention to this number and this calculation, what it helps me grow is my business. So I can remember coaching a client or coaching a group of clients, actually, and we were talking about how founders can and should use their time. And one of the things that I said to them, and this just threw them for a loop, I can totally remember this, totally threw them for a loop. I was like, look, if you really want to grow your company, then you probably need to be devoting 60% of your time to sales and marketing. And if you are a woman entrepreneur who sells services and you're doing under $1 million, that can feel like hard to comprehend how you could possibly spend almost 2/3 of your time on sales and marketing. But the reality is, if you want to grow the business consistently, that's a good metric to keep in mind. I talk a lot to you guys who feel like you're struggling to grow the company, you're struggling to grow revenues, you're struggling to generate leads, and you're looking for a magic bullet. And you're looking for this strategy or that strategy. Is it video? Is it podcasting? Is it doing 5-day challenges? Is it doing webinars? And the reality is that the answer about what is going to work for you is fairly nuanced. And I suspect you already have a pretty good sense of what works for you. Like if you're already closing $100,000 a year, you know the types of things that work for you. The challenge is that you're so stuck in delivery that you don't have the time to devote to growing your pipeline. People typically don't spend enough time on sales and marketing, and then they wonder why their revenues aren't growing. They're looking for the magic bullet, and then they get pissed when the magic bullet doesn't work because they haven't devoted the time to make it work. If you want to grow your business, you need to spend more time on key growth activities. And those key growth activities, for most of you, are sales and marketing. Does this mean you need to be personally closing sales and personally running marketing? No, but you need to be spending your attention there. An interesting fact about Steve Jobs that I always loved is even at the end when he was, he'd built Apple into a $1 billion company and it was a cultural icon and he's a legendary business leader. He's not quote unquote in the weeds of the business at all, but there was one meeting that he would attend every week, and that was the marketing meeting. Because he understood that sales and marketing are the lifeblood of a business. They are the oxygen of a business. And if you don't have enough oxygen, I would ask you, where are you spending your time? I pay close attention to this. And I'll be honest, there have been times where I have been consciously and intentionally less focused on sales and marketing than I have been on other parts of the company. But if you want to grow the company, I'm going to say a good rule of thumb is a minimum of 50% of your time on sales and marketing. And P.S., if you are not able to do this, then you need to come and work with us, because this is what we know how to do to really help you set up your business so that it has internal resilience and scalability so you can start spending that amount of time on sales and marketing. So for me, about once a quarter, I'll take 2 hours, I'll sit down, and I'll study my calendar. And I'm usually going about 12 weeks. And for every week, I'm studying my calendar and I'm personally, manually inputting into my spreadsheet. And doing it manually is really key because I want to personally review every single hour that I spent. Okay. So I'm going through and personally looking at where I spent my time. And so was this sales and marketing? Was this team development? Was this internal systems and operations? Was this miscellaneous? Was this delivery? Right? And so I go through and I track the time, and I can very often link how my business is doing, where we're winning, where we're not as much winning, based on where my time and attention is going, right? And again, if you want to grow, so if you're in growth mode, and I actually don't think it's sustainable for businesses to constantly be in growth mode. I think there's parts where you're going to be sort of, sometimes you're really growing quickly, sometimes you're growing not as quickly. And what I have found is that just being intentional, you get to decide what you want. But from our perspective, I think having periods where we're really focused on growth and client acquisition. And when that's the case, I'm probably going to be spending about 50 to 60% of my time on sales and marketing initiatives. And then usually I'm going to be spending, during those stages, about 20% of my time on thinking and planning, about 15% of my time on team and internal operations, and about 15% of my time on delivery. Right? And that's just really how I need to allocate my time in order to be growing the business. Now, there are other places, so that's sort of growth. There are other times when I'm focused on the internal resilience of the company. So developing new programs, potentially strengthening the programs that we have, really working on internal operations, all of that kind of strengthening the asset. improving profitability, just those kinds of things. And so when I'm going through a phase like that, where that's sort of the overarching goal, I'm probably going to cut the amount of time that I spend on sales and marketing down, and I'm going to increase the amount of time I'm spending on team and internal operations, right? And so what you want to do first and foremost is really look at where you're spending your time, and then look at the ratios. And then the ratios typically help explain why your business is doing the way it's doing. And so if you want to change that, stop looking for the magic bullet. Start first by really understanding where your attention is actually getting spent. Okay? So that's one calculation, my time use ratios. I'll be talking about this more in the fall because it's not something that people do enough. And people are constantly talking about managing their time, but they're not looking at where your highest value activities are and understanding that. And are you lining up your time with the results that you want to achieve through the business? And if you're not, stop looking for a magic bullet. Start looking at how you're applying the application of your energy and focus. Okay? So that is calculation number 1. All right, so the second calculation I pay attention to is my net worth. So of course, as an entrepreneur, you're measuring revenues and profits and all that good stuff. And of course, I do all of those things. But a really important calculation for me is net worth. And paying attention to this number helps me grow my wealth and freedom. It's a really important calculation to me. And, when I was first building my business back in the day, I did not enjoy calculating my net worth because I kept confusing net worth with self-worth. And I would just feel sad and low. I was operating from the scarcity mindset that there was never enough. And honestly, at the time, everything that I knew about money was really through the lens of an employee. So where you're building your skill set, and that's like a core asset, you're getting paid and you're, saving and investing and all of that kind of stuff. I started out my career as an employee. And so that's how I sort of thought about net worth. But as an entrepreneur, it's different. And a lot of investment advisors will, naturally and wisely tell entrepreneurs to make sure that you're investing outside your business and building up your nest egg and all of that good stuff. And I agree. But if you have a worthwhile business, you are your own best return. I will fight for that for my life. I will fight with anybody. And when I say fight, I mean, I'm going to bicker with anybody about this. But for years and years, the biggest returns I ever got for my money was investing back in the business growth. Like if your business is growing at 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 100%, 150%, 200%, all of which I've experienced, right? You are growing way faster than the market. Right? And so your money is best put into your business. I always have found that. And then of course you harvest it out and build your personal net worth from there. But it took time. And there were years where I was investing in the business and it didn't show up in my net worth. It just didn't because the business had to grow. It needed time to get that return. But I think that was, investing in my business was some of the best investments I've ever made. So all of that, when I was doing that and calculating my net worth and I would get so frustrated, I felt like it should be bigger. It wasn't enough. I wish I could go back to that woman and say, hey, girl, don't worry about it. It's coming. And honestly, this is where I think so many women entrepreneurs say it's too stressful to focus on their net worth. And so you don't focus on it because it feels too stressful. And you're like, I'm just not meant to carry this kind of stress. And I'm like, look, to me, the biggest stress is burying things or lying to ourselves and saying they're not important because they're a little uncomfortable, right? Good discomfort is okay. And so for my part, I went through those years of business building. I continued to calculate my net worth basically every quarter or so. Sometimes it didn't change, sometimes it did. And I just kept doing it. I kept investing in my business. I kept being a good money manager, a good steward of money, and really transformed myself into a self-made millionaire one quarter at a time. And so to this day, I update my personal net worth statement roughly once a quarter. and I use that number to execute the next step in my personal financial plan. And so really focusing on net worth has made me richer. It just has. And for me, there's nothing like the freedom of being like, I could retire, or this is when I don't have to work a day again in my life. We're all good. That's exciting, right? So I think paying attention to your net worth and running that calculation and being aware of it is really, really important. All right, so the third calculation, and this one I actually measured daily, is the number of steps I take. So I love being in great shape. I love playing sports. I love health. I love to do yoga. I love to eat well. I also love to have a glass of wine. I also love to eat ice cream. I also love to sometimes stay up late and watch movies. So, there's so many different metrics you can pay attention to from a health perspective. And from my health perspective, I was like, what makes the biggest difference to me? And honestly, this was hard because doing yoga regularly also really helps me. Strength training really helps me. Playing team sports where I can laugh with friends and all of that really helps me. But honestly, one of the most important health metrics for me, health and wellness metrics, is getting 10,000 steps every single day. And I, had an injury last year. It was like a psoas injury. And the psoas is like this muscle deep in the center of your body. And it's kind of hard to get at. So it's hard to get it through massage, chiro, going to the chiro, that really wasn't helping me that much. And then my trainer was like, do you have a Fitbit? And I was like, what is this minion step counting? And she's like, no, seriously, you might be surprised at how active you are in the course of the day. So I got an Apple Watch. I started looking at my steps, and lo and behold, a lot of times I was getting 2,000 steps a day. So I put on that damn Fitbit and I started getting 10,000 steps a day, and basically my whole health transformed. Because for me to get 10,000 steps a day, it meant I was basically going for 2 walks a day. My psoas injury, it just cleared up. My appetite was better. I slept better. Sometimes if it was Thursday after work and I felt like having a glass of wine, I would go for a walk and then I would feel great. So it just, in so many different ways, getting 10,000 steps a day is a really important calculation. So I wanted to share that one with you too, as a sort of a simple way that you can start to improve your wellness. And that for me has been one of the most important things. When I get 10,000 steps a day, most of the other parts of my wellness journey, as we would say, are in line because I'm focusing on movement, and it doesn't have to be intense. It doesn't have to be uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be hard. It's the act of doing it. So there you have it. 3 calculations, 3 sort of metrics that I use to help me maximize my effectiveness. And anytime we're talking about metrics, I do think it's not just with net worth is not self-worth. I think it's time use is not self-worth. Number of steps you take a day is not self-worth. Don't, be an idiot about it. But, just really taking the time to think through what metrics matter and what can I sort of gently pay attention to that's going to really help me see, am I moving in the right direction here? So for time use, if you are one of these entrepreneurs who really want to grow, then take a look at how you're spending your time. And without fussing about, I don't know how to market, I don't know what's working now, I don't know, blah, 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 all of that bullshit that I hear people talking about constantly. One way is just spend a little more time there, right? And for me, remember, if I'm going to focus on growth, I'm going to spend 50% of my time focused on sales and marketing and building funnels and creating content and hiring the best and brightest minds to help me on that side of the business. All of that counts, right? But that's 50% of however many hours I wanted to work that week, right? So there's still outside of that open, a lot of open time, right? I really need that in order to have my mind able to take on all the different aspects of running a business. Running a business, building and running a multi-million-dollar business, has an intellectual load. and you have to allow the brain to rest. I have personally found that, right? That's the kind of person I am. So for me, I know that I have 4 work days and I pretty much don't work on Fridays. And I say don't work in air quotes because I'm actually thinking and planning, and there's a lot that's going on in those days. So number 1, time use, really looking at that. Number 2, net worth, watching that. Take care of yourself, ladies. Make sure that you are building real wealth. I remember Jackie Porter coming on the show a couple episodes ago and talking about broke millionaires, which was hilarious and really powerful, And so make sure you're not move past being a broke millionaire, build $1 million business and build $1 million net worth. And then the final thing is the number of steps that I take in a day. And for me, that's just an important wellness metric. So hope you liked the show. Hope this was a good value and use of your time. And listen, I just want to give a quick shout out to you incredible souls who are reviewing the show. I so appreciate that. It helps other people see the show, but it also lets me know that what we're doing matters, that you hear it, that you value it. We got a 5-star review from Inspired Carrie. She says, truly a queen and a must listen. There are some leaders that play a part and others that truly embody what they teach. Eleanor is 100% what you see is what you get. Her humor and no-nonsense approach to business make her someone you can't wait to listen and learn from. Thank you so much, Inspired Carrie, and thank you to all you amazing people who are leaving us reviews on the show. Okay, take care. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye. If you love this show, then you will love even more my missives, i.e. my emails. If you're not on my email list yet, I strongly encourage you to sign up at eleanorbeaton.com/join. Now, when you go and sign up for my email list, you will quickly discover why some of the most popular, well-known, and influential voices in the world of women's entrepreneurship quietly, studiously, consistently open every single email I send out because they want to be inspired, they want to be entertained, and also I think they really want to connect with a woman like myself who's in full command of her voice and is willing to open up and share her thinking, her ideas, and her story. I promise you that on this email list, you are going to be entertained. You are going to hear really valuable tips about stepping into your power as a leader. And you're also going to get fun insight that I do not share anywhere else. Go to eleanorbeaton.com/join. And I promise you it will be the highlight of your inbox.